cultural heritage.
Welcome to Darshan America, folks. We come to you from Washington, D.C. My name is Ramesh Butani.
And I'm Aastha Verma.
What a fabulous, scandalous news in Washington, D.C. Folks, you know that we thrive on the politics. The Politico organization, the Washington Post, the New York Times, everybody enjoys scandals. And we have a good one.
Weinergate. Now, I don't have to tell you this story. We all know what happened. He sent pictures of his last name to a very young 21-year-old. And, of course, he did it using Twitter, which is like the #1 no-no. I mean, you would think we send out a broadcast bulletin every week. Once you put your stuff on the web, it is live forever. You don't ever get rid of it. And here is this man, this young congressman, who's proving this. And unfortunately, he did himself a terrible disservice. He should have just accepted what he did and ducked out, bowed out gracefully. Everybody makes a mistake.
Just like the Republican candidate, Chris Lee. He did it. He apologized to his family and his voters, and he quit, and he resigned.
But
this guy says he's not going to resign.
That's the funny part, right? Is it just me, or is this just a crazy political season, election season?
It's always been there, but because of the Twitter and the Facebook, you're catching them early on. That's about what is happening, you know.
Now, who knows what Mr. Congressman Anthony Weiner is going to decide, but I predict he's going to be out of office pretty soon.
By the time the show airs. What did he think? There are so many people out there, they're so dumb that they wouldn't know that he sent it?
It just goes to show you that when you put your life out on the web and you use these new platforms and tools, word is going to get out. People are hacking into those systems all the time, and you are asking for it. In his case, I mean, he should have been coached early on that with his name, he really shouldn't engage in any kind of acts like this. But he's not the only story in town. You know, we've seen crazy stories now emerge out of this election season, just as crazy as this story.
But you know, this one, Chris Lee was dumb, and Anthony Weiner was dumber. This is Dumb and Dumber, you know. And by the way, those kind of people are found in almost every profession.
I guess so.
So let's move on. I saw this editorial in Washington Post called Free Trade. Basically, there's a trade agreement that's been on the table, on his table, President Obama's table, from last 2 years. And it is a trade agreement with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama. Now, the Republicans are saying that, Mr. President, you need to sign these agreements without any conditions. Washington Post is saying that he's insisting that Republicans first commit to renewing benefits and retraining assistance for workers displaced by foreign competition. Put a horse before the cart. That's what is happening. You know, I understand that President Obama has a solid base among unions. So in this agreement, folks, what he's asking that you must hear all union complaints in your country. In other words, he's directing them under this agreement. I really think that he should rethink his position. Unions are about 12% of employees in this country. They're 88% of the people that are not. But almost everything that he does, and maybe stimulus or the others, is all revolved around that 12%. But of course, Washington Post is now telling President Obama, make a deal with Republicans. This is good for the country. It's going to create jobs, and jobs is what we need. So I agree with it, and I hope President Obama does it.
It can't hurt, although I think there is so much sentiment around unions in the country. You saw what happened up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That, you know, the unions became too much to support, and so the state just basically eliminated some of those freedoms afforded to unions.
Yeah,
so
not only that state, number of other states. And I know they did that because of the ramifications to the state budgets. It also curtailed some of the freedoms that these unions get. Part of me wonders if this was done as a protective measure to protect the unions by the president. Yeah.
In which case, I can understand some of what he's trying to achieve there. You don't want to kill the concept of unions because, after all, they do protect the worker. They ensure certain protections and insurance and in the environment that it's safe for
No. I mean, I fully agree with, you know, we have so many associations. And, of course, union is like an association. It should stay. And, yes, they should protect their workers. But to get a deal, for instance, union workers get paid higher than non-union workers doing the same thing. I mean, if a woman was making less money than a man doing the same job, you have protest. But up here, there's no protest.
You're right. I guess in some ways he might be creating a scenario in which companies go outside of the unions and cheat their way through it, because to work with a union is so much more expensive.
That's right. And that's the unfortunate part. But hopefully President Obama will get reelected this time with the support of the union. He's doing well for them.
Folks, I wanted to share some more statistics that are coming out of this U.S. Census that was done just recently. Amazing statistics are coming out, actually. Indian Americans were the main driver of population growth of Asian Americans in the United States. And during the last decade, folks, our population went up by 69%, which is phenomenal. We've gone from 1.6 million to 2.8 million just in the last 10 years. And it's primarily in 25 states. This is the part that I found interesting. Mainly in the South and the Midwest, Indians are now the largest Asian subgroup, which I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, I was surprised. New York, New Jersey area, there was no increase.
Which is the funny part, actually, because you realize that we're finding new places to exist.
Yes.
New cities and new parts of the United States to conquer, territory-wise. The states, the 25 of the 25, New Jersey, not surprising, Texas, Illinois, Florida, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, Arizona, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, West Virginia, Iowa, and Arkansas.
Those are states that I would not have thought that they would go. A lot of doctors go in that arena because, you know, they have to serve the people who are underserved medically. So in order to get a visa or something, they have to go to some of these. So, yeah, I know that some of them have been there.
What I find fascinating about this is it's no longer about the economic hubs being on the East and the West Coast.
Yeah.
We're starting to move inward into the country, or rather migration patterns are also forcing people to come inward to the heartland of the United States. And of course, you know, the reasons why the population is exploding won't surprise those of us that have covered this topic well, because many have come and stayed after H-1B visas. Not surprising. Many sponsored relatives, and those relatives, it takes years for the paperwork to come through.
Yes.
So there's a long pipeline of people. So the population is going to continue to grow. Right? And not only that, this was the interesting statistic. Indian Americans are the least likely of Asian groups in the U.S. to marry outside their ethnicity and race, according to previous studies. And that actually helps bolster our population because we tend to marry Indians. Sometimes we'll go and find that